As a Navy junior, I had been around several folks iconized in the film The Right Stuff. For real. There are some grisly notions in the story, but they are genuine and not from macabre lure. Duke Windsor, a classmate of my dad's in test pilot training, had married Elizabeth Bess Foster, one of several heiresses to the Coors Beer Fortune. Therein lies much of the dark history. In 1929, Adolf Coors, the patriarch, was pushed or jumped from a window of the Cavalier Hotel in Virginia Beach to his death. In 1960, his grandson, Adolph Coors III, was kidnapped, launching the largest manhunt since the Lindbergh baby kidnapping in 1932. Unfortunately, Coors was murdered. Of little relief, the killer was captured after a 7-month manhunt. In spite of the extended family horrors, Commander Robert W. Duke Windsor was able to establish a national speed record on August 21, 1956, reaching 1,015 miles per hour over a 15-kilometer course. In the process, the F-8 Crusader became the first armed jet aircraft to fly faster than 1,000 miles per hour. For this accomplishment, Duke was awarded the 1956 Thompson Trophy. It didn't take long for the Crusader to leave a positive first impression for its pilots to score their names in the pages of history. Thomas Wolfe was on to something when he coined the term "the right stuff" with his book about the search and selection of the Mercury Seven original astronauts. In my view, having the right stuff is having the mental and physical capacity and stamina to handle complex tasks. Writing for Rolling Stone in 1973, Tom Wolfe was assigned to scour the world of astronauts and their respective backgrounds. By this time, over 43 men had launched into space for the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and Skylab missions. Wolfe became transfixed with the original Mercury Seven and concentrated on them, in particular those who came through the Navy test pilot and carrier aviation assignments. His January 1973 Rolling Stone article was the precursor to his 1975 article in Esquire magazine, Jousting with Sam and Charlie. This led to his book, The Right Stuff, and then the Academy Award-winning film of the same title. In 1956, I was a second grader at Little Flower Parochial School in Patuxent River, Maryland. We lived in base housing while my dad was on his second test pilot tour as an operational flight test pilot. Upstairs of our unit, Duke and Bessie Windsor lived with their son Skip. On more than one occasion, Duke and the gang would come down Saturday morning after a night of revelry and to recover, I suppose, with Bloody Marys. I had a bugle that Duke asked me to bring out, and while I could play it somewhat, Duke would get red-faced and apoplectic trying to get the faintest squeal out of it. We howled. Uncle George Watkins was an ever-present feature, very loud, not to be ignored, also from the test pilot school. I recall a party during which everybody was drinking out of sequins-dressed toilet plungers, and for us kids, sleep was not an option. In 1959, I was the fourth grader at Lincoln Park Elementary in Virginia Beach, Virginia. It was about this time that the final cut from 32 candidates to 7 was made for the Mercury program. My father was one of the 25 eliminated in the process. Burgess's 2011 book, Selecting the Mercury Seven, provides authorized biographies of the 25 whose names were finally released in 2009. One Sunday in 1959, my dad took my brother and me to the Ice Plaza rink in Norfolk for ice skating. We ran into the Allen Shepard family, and I got to meet him before he made his historic flight. The most improbable association was that my grandfather Holloway remarried in 1958, 2 years after my grandmother Holloway died from colon cancer. He married Josephine Cook Kinney, the mother of Joe Schirra, wife of future Mercury 7 astronaut Wally Schirra. I do not recall ever having met him, but I asked my grandfather for and received 5 autographed index cards from him. The only one left shown here. I intentionally misspelled my name in the typed inscription on the card to suggest that he did not know me from Adam, which was the case. I asked my dad why he didn't make the final cut, and he suggested that he was probably one of the oldest of the Navy candidates at age 29. Shep was younger, and he got the nod. Somewhere I read that my father reflected on his tour as the commissioning skipper of the carrier America as his most enjoyable tour in the Navy. Getting pulled for the Mercury 7 would have precluded that. No regrets.